Welcome to another episode of All Pop No Culture Presents The Guys Get Lost. This is our fifth episode, and this week we're going to cover season 1, episodes 10, 11, and 12, Raised by Another, a very Claire-centric episode, All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues, which is a Jack episode, and Whatever the Case May Be, which is a Kate episode. This week we have our first appearance of the Hatch. We have some Ethan Rom incidents and a few theories getting bandied about by Andrew and Pete. So have a watch, enjoy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell us what you think, and let us know if you're watching along. And enjoy the episode. Speaking of Watership Down.
Yeah.
It's Sawyer's favorite book from Law.
Oh, I'm sorry. If that just
nailed it. I can transition like a motherfucker.
Oh my god, that was so smooth.
Seamless. So I'm just going to take over. We're going to talk about Lost now because it's almost 3 a.m. and we've got a lot of Lost to talk about. Because I don't know, some fucking idiots thought we should watch 3 episodes instead of 2.
No, wait. No, wasn't. Hold on.
Technically, you and I only watched 2.
Yeah.
The Andys had to watch 3 because Andrew slacked off last week.
Andy, no, I think both of us didn't watch the second episode.
He doesn't matter. He can't show up. He has no vote. He doesn't count. So let's see. So picking up where we should have been last week, we start off with a Claire-centric episode, which gives us a good idea of how she ended up on the island. And her pregnancy as it stands on the island. And so having watched this 2 weeks ago, even though I've seen all of these many times, I'm a little rusty, but I know it opens up at a dream sequence. Claire wakes up, she's not pregnant. She goes wandering around the woods, she finds Locke, who says to her, but he looks up and he's got one solid white eye, one solid black eye. And he says something to her, and she's got a crib that she reaches into and just filled with blood, and then she wakes up screaming. And so we're given to believe that it was a night terror she was having. And that's kind of how the episode starts off. And so this one, for the most part, is really all about Claire. Although Hurley is also working on the census in the background, because at some point Claire wakes up and believes that she has been attacked, right? So she's having a hard time sleeping now that she thinks she's been attacked, and Jack actually doesn't believe her. He thinks she's so stressed out that she's having these nightmares, and
tries to give her a sedative.
Yes.
And Hurley starts taking the census, so there's some really fun stuff there when he goes around and interviews people and ask questions. But we also find out in the past that Claire kind of got boned into having this kid in the first place. Her boyfriend gets her pregnant.
What a dick.
And she's all nervous about it. And he just, like, so endearingly is just like, oh, we can do this. We can make this happen. And so she jumps on full on board. And then the next time we see the two of them, he's like, yeah, this isn't working. As she's like decorating the house, like she's 100% in, all that, and he's just like, yeah, I'm out. And in between that time, she's also gone and seen a psychic who is
freaks
talking to
out,
her
yeah,
and freaks out, right? And so that's a really cool kind of storyline. And what's really interesting, and Charlie points it out at the end of the episode, is if you accept the fact that this guy is really a psychic, he put Claire on that plane knowing that she was going to crash.
Yeah.
Right. Like he wanted her to raise the baby alone. She wasn't going to. She's going to give it up for adoption, whatever. And when she bails on that one adoption, he takes advantage, puts her on a plane that, he psychically knows is going to crash, and boom, now she's raising the baby by herself. Which may or may not be true, right? But it's just what Charlie believes.
Well, no, it's a brilliant. That's the way I took it. Like
Mhm.
with his intentions when they laid that out, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like yeah, like that's exactly why he did this,
Yeah.
which is just a fun little bit because I don't know how much again that could come back to play into something because you never know with this fucking show at this point. Like I can already tell this is going to be one of those shows that like in season 3 they're going to randomly reference something back from season 1 that you're going to supposed to know to really understand something, and you're going to be like, oh shit. Anyway, yeah, Claire's story was cool.
Yeah,
in a disturbing kind of way, like when they like her attack, if you will, just the way they filmed that and the way they put that together, like made it like obviously acceptable to put on broadcast television, but at the same time a very disturbing image. Like just however they did it, it just worked very, very well. Hurley in the census.
So Hurley in the census, so he's going around checking with everybody, and ultimately at the end of the episode, we find out that that there's somebody in the camp that was not on the plane.
Ethan.
And that's one Mr. Ethan Rom.
Canadians. You're like fucking Canadians, and we're like,
now,
you'll later. But yeah.
Ethan
by the way,
Rom.
did you know he's actually cousin?
Tom Cruise's cousin?
Mm-hmm.
I
Really?
was about to say that. Yep.
Maypo there.
Yeah, he's Tom Cruise's cousin. You can see it. Like if you know and you look at him, you can see it. They look related, but not if you don't. Like it's not something that you just be like, that guy's probably related to Tom Cruise.
Well, now that you say it, the next time he shows up, I'm going to be like,
the last name that I saw Maypo there. I figured Maypo there.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like Tom Cruise. I Googled it.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, all right, just jump in.
And so, so the episode ends with them revealing that that's who he is, that he wasn't on the plane. And then at the very end of the episode, it cuts to him stopping Charlie and
Claire
in the woods. And so from there, we bounce into
that's
the episodes.
Yeah, that's one point we're not leaving out for those listening at home if you're following along with this. So Claire made this is what I don't get. I get why Claire would be upset because like she feels like he called her crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But at the same time, the logic in my head would be like, I don't think I should move to the beach. I should stay as close to where the doctor is living as possible because I don't know how to have a baby on an island where there's no sort of baby supplies at all. Like it's a very interesting move, and Charlie's just all caught up in her. So they storm out and they meet Ethan.
Yep.
Which takes us into
episode 11.
Into the next episode. All the best Cowboys have daddy issues. The name of that episode. And this episode is let's see, this is a Jack episode again. Which I think this is the first time we get a second episode for a character. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so we dive a little more into his backstory and his relationship with his dad, which is really interesting. But the way this episode opens up at this point, like immediately, everybody knows or everybody understands that Ethan took Claire, right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to go out and start a hunting party to try and find him, or a search party to try and find him. But in our flashbacks, we see Jack in the OR essentially losing a patient, right? And his dad's giving him shit about it. And then come to find out that they brought in Jack because his dad was drunk doing the surgery. And so they have a little face off about that. So it's interesting to see this dad who is, from the episode we saw before, has put his son down so much, and now he's the one, fucking shit up. Um, and then back in our current timeline, they're tracking Charlie. And one thing that I thought was interesting in this episode is that both Jack and Locke blame themselves for them being taken. Locke says it's his fault because he spends so much time with Ethan hunting and all this, that he should have recognized that something was off. And then Jack blames himself for not believing Claire. And it's interesting because these two are like kind of the leader types on the island right now. And they both, are taking blame for things that are happening to other people now. And one thing that's funny is that so Boone joins them, so they're out there, and Boone is following Locke. And when they split up, he says something about, they must be red shirts, right?
Oh yeah,
and well, and so Locke is like, oh, what's a red shirt? Doesn't understand the episode, and it says, oh, it sounds like a shitty captain. Well, Locke, Terry O'Quinn was on Star Trek: The Next Generation. So just a little bit of extra funny to that joke when he's acting like he's never seen Star Trek, and that doesn't know what a red shirt is. He was an admiral, I think, on an episode of Star Trek: Next Generation.
Very cool.
Yeah, so a little bit of trivia, and we also find out that Locke finally explains to somebody that he used to just work for a box company, because as far as they know, he's always been a badass. Yeah,
it's he and Boone as they're trying to, and Boone doesn't believe him.
Yeah.
We find out
he does the rain prediction.
Yeah,
which is a little.
That was a fun. Crazy. That was a fun like moment in a lot of ways. He's like, no, it's gonna rain in a minute. You're like, what? Yeah. And they just talk for a minute, and then just boom, it starts raining. Yeah, this is the race through the jungle. I love Charlie leaving the pieces of tape for them to find.
Yep.
When the two split up.
Which is funny because it's almost like a Lord of the Rings thing, right? Like he did the same thing as his character in Lord of the Rings, where he dropped the brooch. But yeah, so he's got him, and at some point, Sawyer finds Saeed in the cave, because he finds out Saeed is back, and Saeed is the one that stabbed him in the arm and almost killed him. And they have a really interesting face-off, because it's tense, because you really believe that Sawyer could be a very vengeful dude, right? Like he could go after Saeed and hurt him or kill him or get his revenge or whatever, and he just kind of walks away in a very, like, almost a kind way with everything that Saeed went through. So it's just interesting. Sawyer is, like, at this point, I think, one of the most complex characters, because he wants to be the nice guy, but he's also not good at it.
He doesn't know how. Yeah,
he always tries, and then people give him shit, and so he's like, well, fuck it, this is who you want me to be. So it's always nice to see when he gets the opportunity to be the nice guy.
And it was very interesting. I like the way that conversation evolved as well. It didn't, like, I bought it. It didn't feel forced. The way they wrote it and the way the actors put the two of them worked off of each other with that, like, because a lot of times you can get that where it's almost like an interrogation scene, basically, or like the confrontation when one person is helpless, and it doesn't feel like it works. Like, it's just like, oh well, I'll tell you then. And it was like, what, really?
Yeah.
But this it just worked all around, and Saeed telling him what's what's going on and what he found out there. It's very interesting because now Sawyer knows, like the whole story basically was saying. And I think actually no one else at this point, no one else knows, right? Saeed hasn't woken up. Like I think Jack, he's told Jack a little bit, or is that just what we've seen on screen?
Which story?
Saeed, just about his whole
Rousseau.
Rousseau and just his time in captivity.
Well, I don't think it's common knowledge, although I think it becomes more common knowledge in the next episode. And I don't know. It's sometimes hard to tell on the show what they're keeping from the larger group, right? Because you have the core group of like 8-10 people, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have the the rest of the survivors that aren't all that involved. But
the cannon fodder, I have a feeling.
Well, yeah, and this is funny that they brought up the Steven Scott joke, which they'll do a few more times. It's not much of a spoiler, but he Hurley gets people's names wrong a lot, which is kind of funny when he's only got to know 40 something people.
Yeah,
and he gets their names wrong all the time. Besides our main characters, and so then in this episode, they split up in their search parties, and Jack hears whispers in the woods, in the forest, and he hears screaming, and he goes after it because he thinks he's following Claire, and he runs into Ethan, who says basically, if you keep coming after me, I'm going to kill one of them. And then they brawl, and Ethan beats the living shit out of him.
If you do not stop following me, I will kill one of them. Do you understand? No more warnings.
Yeah, you think you think Jack's gonna kind of hold his own there for a minute.
He's a bigger guy. Got worked.
Ethan, like, exactly. Ethan clearly has like hand-to-hand combat training, and versus Jack's like maybe he took some boxing at the gym, or some karate as a young man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that, and the Ethan character is still a complete mystery to us, which is very interesting. And yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, well, because in this episode, I mean, before this episode, he had maybe 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah,
like they brought him up and they introduced him, and then he was there and he was doing things, he was helping out. So we saw that he seemed like maybe just one of the survivors that we hadn't.
Was he the one noticed. Talking about hives, or is that another guy? Like
no, it was a different guy talking about hives. That was on the golf course.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. And then in our Jack backstory,
Jack story, if you will.
There you go. Don't ever do that again. His dad basically convinces him to kind of cover up the fact that he fucked up the surgery.
Yes.
And Jack signs off reluctantly, and just decides that, because I think at some point his dad throws in the, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, and you're everything that I thought you're going to be," right? Like the opposite of what he's been feeding him. And so Jack doesn't necessarily eat that up, but it's enough to convince him to sign off on what his dad wants him to sign off on. And then when they're back in the boardroom kind of going over it, somebody says something and they're like, "Oh, and you knew she was pregnant, right?" And Jack obviously did not know that.
Yeah.
And
again,
his dad is
that was
like, "Oh yeah."
That was another one of those moments that I like. Matthew Fox has always just kind of been a pretty face in a lot of ways. Like there's some acting chops behind there, but he's not like, it's, and again, he was younger then, but it's such a different character. It's such a different character than Charlie, on Party of Five. So, and obviously a different kind of show. So, but he actually has some decent like TV acting chops. Like this guy's not bad. That moment, the change on his face was good because it was nice and subtle, yet then held his composure and he fucking ratted out his pops.
Yep.
Like a little bitch.
Yep.
She get fucking stabbed.
Which,
snitches,
you can.
Snitches. Sorry.
Oh, and you kind of get the feeling that maybe that's the catalyst for his dad running off to Australia, right?
Correct.
So,
no, I don't.
Really?
The vibe I'm getting from that, though, at least with the conversation with the mom, because and obviously the dad drinks and they know that, but it doesn't like it seems like he's drinking at lunch, but the mom, like the way when he has to find the dad in Australia, back, what was that, episode 4? Was that or 5? Anyway, when they reveal that in that conversation, I feel like the mom said something about he's on another binge or who knows where he is this time. Like this is not the first time his dad's kind of disappeared in a grand type way. It probably, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't the impetus, but I feel like this is like the beginning of his down, like this is his dad's rock bottom, and this is when, he either goes into a manic episode or he just, goes for it. So that I don't know if I mean, it's probably the impetus for his, break, or they're doing a good enough job of making us feel like that. Or making us feel that Jack feels like that. Like that's Jack's big motivation and the guilt and why he's kind of pushing himself right now. Anyway.
Yeah. And so so back in our current timeline, Jack comes to and continues to go after Claire and Charlie. And Kate catches up, and then as they are running through the woods, they find Charlie hanging from a tree, and when they pull him down, he's essentially dead, right?
Yep.
And there's this real feeling in that scene, the way that it plays out, that Charlie's lost to us. Like this is the end of Charlie.
Yep.
And to the point where Matthew Fox, where Jack even stops giving CPR. And Kate is broken, like she's crying and she's watching Jack break down, which I think is as hard for her as it is to see Charlie potentially dead, right? I think those are two almost equal things for her. And then when Jack goes back like at the last second to try and revive him again, then she's really losing it, like she's and then all of a sudden Charlie wakes up.
Come on, Charlie. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, Charlie. Come on. Come on. Come on, Charlie. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Jack.
Come on.
Jack.
Come on.
Jack. He's
Come
not.
on.
Jack, stop. He's not. Come here. It's okay.
No. No.
Jack! Jack!
Come on!
Stop!
Come on! Come on!
Well, Jax, and again, this is what's interesting, because I think, or maybe I'm wrong, but it's a very interesting thing, like starting to try and unravel, I know, if we will, the mystery of this island. There's something going on with this island where people kind of get what they want. If they maybe if they sacrifice something, maybe there's something to come. But like Locke got his legs back, maybe Jack, like I don't know, something in Jack's emotion about the lady that he lost on the operating table that day with his dad, like triggered the island to bring Charlie back. Because it's because I mean in this show has shown, not to get all Andy on us about it, but the show has shown it will address certain issues, but it at the same time it doesn't always live in the factual day-to-day, or the main characters aren't involved in some of that necessarily, so there is a bit of like hyperbole to it all. But Charlie looks like he was hanging up there dead for a while. Like that did not look like a body that was going to get revived. Right. Like that. Like it really, again, not a doctor in TV land. I didn't get my fake MD from somewhere, but like that, it just felt like, and just how long it all lasted.
Yeah.
It just felt like they were like it just wasn't like, I get you're trying to build some sort of high thing, but I just feel like with this show, again, just because of the way you've talked about it, the way other people have talked about it to me, that like there is a little meaning or a little something sometimes behind everything, and there are little keys to mysteries all over the place, and you'll look back and go, oh, that was another one when, oh, that was another one when. So I don't know, that maybe has something to do with what's happening or going to happen on this island. Anybody else have anything? It might. Fuck you.
I have so many theories I could tell you about right now. But I won't. But yeah, no, it is interesting how
well, no, hold on. Dead. Do you remember anything? And this might be hard for you. Do you remember when you were first watching this, and when it was first, obviously when it was first on, some of the theories that people had going forward, whether they played out or not? Do you remember any of those? Like that, that would be interesting to me. Like you said,
the biggest one that everybody had by this point is the same one actually that Andrew had, is that this is purgatory, that they're dead and they're dealing with the things that
they're dealing with, their baggage and the bad things they've done,
right? Because if it's purgatory, they got to go to A or B, right? So they're sitting in the middle. And that was the biggest ongoing theory, I think, by this point, because when this happens to Charlie, you get the feeling that like maybe people can't die on the island, right?
Yeah.
And so that was by far the prevailing theory right now. The one thing that is ironic about how I'm pushing you guys to watch as few episodes as possible, I did binge watch the entire first season because I didn't pick up the show until the second season. So when I did watch the show, I watched the first season after everybody else and watched it straight through.
Okay.
So, and then
it's interesting because this, I think, I'm really kind of happy that a lot of the streaming services are going back to or doing things with like a releasing it a week by week episode, even if you do it like Vox Machina where you release 3 episodes in a week or something like that, it's just a very nice little way of doing it because it builds that up again. It makes you want to wait for the next week. Oh, this episode of this is coming up. It's kind of, I don't want to say brought the fun back to television, but I realize it's kind of what I like about still having cable. I realize that there's some shows that even though I know they're coming out on the streaming service the next week, it's just there's like this odd old comfort in knowing that next week at the same time.
There was a meme I saw, and I can't remember what show it was, but there's a show that was out right now that they're doing episodically, right? So they're doing once a week, and everybody was kind of buzzing about it. And then it was like, yeah, everybody's talking about this show, and nobody's talking about Ozark, which all dropped at once.
Yes, I think I might have shared that one actually.
Maybe you were the one that posted it. Yeah. It's an interesting point, right? Because Ozark is a fantastic show by all accounts. I haven't watched it, but I know that everybody that does says it's a great show.
Came and went.
But because they dropped it the way that they did, the buzz doesn't hang around.
Yeah.
So when you watch a show and you have to wait in between, there's more buzz around it.
It's more social, basically, because everyone's watching it at the same time.
It is now, and the interesting part about it, or were you done, Andrew? I'm sorry.
No,
I cut you off. That was.
No, I'm actually like super drowsy. I'm sure.
The thing about releasing it episode by episode is I still think there are some shows that deserve to just get the binge drop.
For sure.
Like if they went, that make more sense to, just give me all 13 episodes.
Like the like man, I'm tired. What's it called that show, the superhero show? The Boys.
The Boys
is a dropper.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because there's no real mystery between the episodes anyways, right? Like there's no
there's the mystery in the storytelling, there's this mystery of the story, but there's nothing about that.
What about Stranger Things though? Do you think that should be episodic versus a drop?
At this point, no. Because I don't think
they will, because they're also splitting this up into an A and B side of season 4 anyway. So I think we're only going to get 4 episodes and then 4 episodes,
which is what they did with what's it called, Ozark though too, but it's going to be more than 4 episodes. But last season part 1 part 2, I think. Madden was the first one to do that actually, but anyway, I digress.
I don't think you can just switch once you've already got it going.
Fair.
Oh, you guys are fading. Let us move on.
So back to Locke. This episode ends with Locke and Boone kind of off on their own. I think they don't know that Claire has been found yet, and they're about to turn back. And Locke tosses Boone the flashlight.
Yeah.
And Boone drops it and hits the ground, hits something metal.
Boone, you need this more than I do. What is that? Steel.
And so they start digging up this metal thing in the ground, and that's where that episode ends.
And what's crazy is I don't think we've gotten a resolution to that, because in the following episode we don't follow. Wait.
No, we do.
Yeah, so we can jump into the next episode. We do not get a resolution to it, but we know that they are actively going out every single day to try and figure out what this thing is.
Okay.
I don't believe that we see it in the episode. No, we just know that they're out there doing it.
Yeah, we know they're out there working on it because they segue us into that from actually the very beginning of the episode is very interesting because you didn't get what happened last on Lost.
Yeah, this is one of the only ones that doesn't have a previously on Lost.
It just goes right into Kate picking fruit, and I'm sorry. I know I'm woke, evolved man. Dude, Evangeline Lilly climbing trees, picking fruit. This shit is hot, bro.
She's fucking.
Dude, everything she does in the show, she's she's beautiful. I mean,
No,
it helps
the
that
swimming.
she's, you know,
That's
20.
it was the swimming part.
This
I
is
was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think I texted you. I was like, yo, just saying, like, I now understand.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
so they
she was super fit too. Like that's the thing is like she's like, and she always has been, like she's always been a very active person
yeah.
since then, right? So if you see her, you know, and stuff after Lost, she's pretty ripped. Like she had some guns on her. Like she's really fit.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Ant-Man.
yeah, and but obviously, you know, she's swimming around in her underwear,
That was it.
and
Sorry.
she you don't have to apologize. I mean, she looks fantastic. So her and Sawyer jump in to this waterfall they find,
Whatever, yeah.
and they find a suitcase underneath some bodies, and she says it's her suitcase. You know, and of course Sawyer, being Sawyer, has to be a little bit of a dick. And says, well, you know, prove it, and she can't, right? She doesn't have a key. There's no combination. She doesn't have a way to open it. And so there's this whole, like the whole episode, which is a Kate episode in the past, although just like the last episode, the flashbacks are not as robust as they have been in some of the other episodes. I feel like the flashbacks in these two episodes are a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That, you know, in these two episodes, at least, they're really pushing forward the story that we're on. They definitely do show character, but they aren't necessarily explaining the character the way they did the first time around.
See, I agree, but also disagree at the same time with you. If this makes any sense. I think a lot of that is intentional. I think it's just pacing and the way they put it together, because the shorter clip scenes are letting them tell two stories, like the here and the now, whereas the ones with the larger flashbacks, there's a subplot going on the island, but your main focus at that point, you both yawned at the same time, you passed it on, it could end up in China at this point. You got the two different subplot. You've got the subplot going on the island, but then you've got the flashback, which is actually the main focus, right? Because like Jack is like big chunky flashbacks throughout his episode, and these, like, you're right, the Kate ones are very short.
Yeah,
you know, and it's more about emotion, and yeah. So this is another interesting one that I don't want to say is kind of rough. How did those two seats with that fucking case get randomly thrown all the way into that island?
Well, I mean, who's to say it's random? We don't know how far it is between the beach and the fuselage, right? Which we know the fuselage, or the front part of the plane, ended up pretty far into the island.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to say when it fell out. So in Kate's past, we find out she is, well, we think she is being a victim of a bank robbery, right? And as that flashback goes on, we come to find out that she's not a victim. She is 100% part of the problem.
Okay, so that I actually knew. The minute I saw it, and the minute she was in there, like, doing her thing, acting on the ground, watching the way she was watching everything else, I was like, oh no, she's in on this. Like this, like there's something just told me. I was like, no, she's in on this. This is her crime. Because now you're going and you're thinking every time you get a Kate flashback, you're gonna be like, oh, is this what she's on the run for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was very interesting to find out at some point in this episode a little bit more about Kate's past and her dad. Or no, excuse me, go back to the last episode. That was one thing, because it bleeds into this one. When Charlie and Kate are tracking, or when Jack and Kate are tracking Charlie and Claire, you find out about Kate's dad being a ranger, and that she he took her into the woods and tried to do this. So the whole gun thing, that's what instantly gave it away for me, is when they're in the bank robbery and he's like, oh, here, or she rescues the gun and there's guys like taking the hostage and this and that. There's a scuffle and she's like, I don't know how to work it. I don't know how to work it. It's like, whoa. You're trying to tell me
that
your
she knows
ranger
the safety's on because she's pulling the trigger.
pulling the
and it's not
trigger.
working.
Yeah. You're like, your ranger dad made you hike in the woods for 8 hours tracking a deer, but growing up you never once shot a firearm.
A pistol, yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's so funny to watch Andrew falling asleep right now because I see his eyes slowly closing. I know we're almost done.
Episode. Yeah, we're almost there.
This will be a nice short episode. I'm so sorry I started late, you guys. Oh, I feel so bad. You guys got to be so tired.
It's your fault.
It's totally me.
And so, we come to find out that, she planned the robbery, but on top of that, she just doesn't give a shit about anything in there except for this one single thing, which is the one thing she's trying to get out of the case, even though she repeatedly says there's nothing in the case that she wants, or that, she tells Jack about the guns. She knows there's guns in there.
Yeah.
For her to know that, you kind of have to assume that they're probably her guns, right? She knows how many there are and what the ammunition is and all that.
Well, no, she said they were personal effects and stuff. Like she told Jack who the case belonged to. Yeah. So I think she said it was the Marshall's case.
Yeah.
And this and that. So I think she, sitting in a hotel room somewhere at some point, she saw him pack this case, and she knew what was in it. Yeah. I don't think that stuff was actually hers. I think that was the only thing. Keep going. Yeah.
And then and then she says, oh, but I know where the key is. It's on the Marshall's body.
Yeah.
And it's at this point, Jack is kind of fed up with her bullshit. And so he's like, yeah, well, you can, I'll take you to the body, but I'm going to dig it up with you. And we're going to open this case together. And she tries to sneak the key past him, which just pisses him off even more. And so once they've, these two have a couple of times after their initial like hot and heavy romance have kind of butted heads a few times.
Oh yeah.
And so, they finally get to the case, open the case. He's going through everything, and sure enough, there's an envelope that she swore, there was nothing in there that she wanted,
right.
And it's the only thing she wanted. And she opens it up, and now I can't remember, and I even took notes. Does it show what's in the envelope? Did we see what was in there?
It was a plane, wasn't it?
Okay, it's a toy plane.
Yeah.
And it belonged to the only man she ever loved, and it was inside this. That she killed. It was the love of her life that she killed.
Yeah. And then he's just kind of like, okay, but you're still a lying ass.
Well, that's okay. Again, and then we go to during the bank robbery when Kate shoots. We don't know if they're dead, but she shoots.
Oh, yeah.
What, 3 people?
Mm-hmm.
In there. And it's like, okay, so over this, I'm very interested as to what this toy plane means.
Yeah.
Because she's willing to kill potentially 3 people, which she does with, again, pointing out that whole. I think there's way more to Kate, way more than we're even beginning to let on. Like they're trying to play her. They're trying to play her like she's your average person. Maybe she knows a little bit more than the average bear, but like she's on this, quest to do something. So she hired these guys. Like they kind of play it out that she got the bank robbers involved so she could get in here and do this. Mm-hmm. But I feel like she, like when she shoots those guys, that's more than just like hanging out with your ranger dad.
Yeah.
There's the biggest reason she shoots them though also is to protect the bank guy. Yeah. The bank manager.
Because she's like, this is not part of the plan. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
So she's you guys. And he's like, you better.
Well, yeah, because he takes off the mask, right? And you know that if somebody takes off the mask, they're identifying themselves. So
you're dead. It's over.
And so we go through all that. Meanwhile, back on the island, Saeed and Shannon are having their moments, and he's trying to get her to translate the map and all the shit that he took from Rousseau, and it's just not making sense. And so this is right after Boone told her that she's useless, right? And then you can see her like feeling useless, like she's really struggling, because she, at this point, I think she finally realizes she needs to be a better person, and she's trying to be, and it's just not working for her. And so she kind of marches off and leaves Saeed behind.
But predicate that though. The reason she feels like that is because Boone told her like that she was useless in the media episode, that she wasn't worth anything.
Yep. And then at the very end, we come to find out, we're given no context as to what it means, but we find out that all the words that she's written are from the song, the French version of the song "Somewhere Across the Sea," that played at the end of Finding Nemo. And so this crazy woman in the woods has just been writing song lyrics all over her maps, which, you know, we don't know if that means a damn thing or not.
Has she though? Has she?
I don't know. You tell me. And then the only other thing that was interesting in this episode is when Rose, the older black lady, tells Charlie to fucking sack the fuck up and get his shit in gear, which is fantastic. She's like, yeah, we're all going through something, so maybe you just want to get your shit in gear and help out.
Exactly. She's like, look, you little hobbit. Nobody blames you. They found you hanging from a tree.
Yep.
Numbnuts. Like, come on.
So, yeah. So that's it. I don't know. And you guys have theories about the map? Anything? Trying to think anything else that would be theory worthy at this point besides what we talked about from Charlie himself.
I don't have enough to make a really any sort of cogent theory yet, because there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do. There's like, if you will, as I'm Sherlocking this bitch, like that we keep getting little bits and pieces of what's going on the island. So we've got Ethan, who at this point maybe we're supposed to be taking as one of the others that Rousseau was talking about, you know.
So let me tell you something here that I don't remember if people figured it out right here or if in a couple of episodes, but I'm going to tell you, since you used the term "the others," Ethan Rom is an anagram for other man.
I'm horrible at anagrams, by the way, so thank you for doing that. Some people can do that easily. I can't.
So Ethan, yeah. So it's funny that you said others, and that made me think of Ethan, and his name is an anagram for other man.
Ooh, that's gonna be very interesting when that's a reveal. I like it.
What was his deal? Like, why is he going all like serial killer on homegirl and her baby? It's fucking.
You tell me. You know as much as I do right now.
So yeah, we're talking about the theory. So Rousseau, I think she is a little batshit.
Yes.
Crazy. But here's the other thing that is again very interesting. If you've got Ethan and there are these or the others or whoever, you know, there's obviously other people because they keep talking about, because when Charlie comes to, he keeps saying they just want her and her baby. Mm-hmm. They just want her and her baby. When Jack's kind of questioning him, he does say they, which at that point we're not in the kind of pronoun time that we are right now. So they is, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm being serious. Like people go, they's the hardest one to work. So you think of a group.
Yeah. At
that point, you know, it's come to associate that pronoun in a different way. And whatever, dude, I'm good. You know, no, but it's so we know that there's a group of people in a way, or at least Charlie's intimating that. But Charlie also doesn't remember anything, but he knows this, which is very interesting. And then, so if Saeed found Rousseau's, no, Saeed didn't find Rousseau's. He escaped from it. She trapped him. Never mind. My theory doesn't make any sense. God damn you, QAnon movie.
And then any ideas on why they're taking the baby or Claire?
Oh, the baby was my first inclination.
They want to raise the baby.
Oh, ooh. God damn you,
Actually,
Kevin. I know that's smart, Kevin. Fuck you, Kevin.
Nothing. I know as much as you guys do.
The other thing is like I was getting like I never saw Rosemary's Baby or The Omen, but I was getting weird ass fucking
same
Satan shit. Like you must raise the child, and I'm like, what is this child fucking like Damien or some shit? Like what the fuck is wrong with this? Like just like he's like no, you must. Like he's like calling her and stalking her. Like you must blah blah blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like. It was. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, I actually like that shit. Like, I think it's kind of cool. But like,
well, that's totally. Like, maybe the psychic guy is involved, and he's one of the weird, satanic cults that knows that like the harbinger of the apocalypse is being born right here in Claire's vagine, and so you gotta like. We got to take her someplace and like the cult lives on this island. So he drops the plane on the island, and everybody else working out their whole deal is like whatever's going on. But Claire is actually the main central focal point of the entire story. And we've never known until this point because her baby is supposed to destroy the world one day.
And I can actually buy that. As like if that was really the end of Lost, like we did all that shit just for fucking Claire and her baby, I can see why people would be upset. Are you serious? So like all this other bullshit with Jack and everybody else, all this mystery was over fucking Claire and her baby? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, dude. If you just solve this shit, like in the first half of season 1, you are a fucking G. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I know I have it.
I'm like looking at Kevin's face right now.
Kevin's got a good poker face, but if I had hit that one out of the park, he wouldn't have been able to hold it.
Oh, word? He's such
because it's only halfway through season 1.
Right. But that was a good theory to come up with in this early because I haven't put anything together yet.
But then again, well, no, because then the crazy Satan people are raising the baby in their underground lab that I have a feeling.
No, but they're forcing her to do it.
Oh, you know what? Now I'm having. Okay, so this is where it's going to get hard because this has been on before. I remember a reference, and it's interesting because it was broadcast TV. So we're basically halfway through the first season now, right? I remember one of the buzzy things about this show at the time, or one of the things that gets referenced when they talk about it, is the hatch.
Oh. Well,
I feel like that's what Sawyer and Locke have just found.
Yeah. Or Boone and Locke.
Yeah. Boone and Locke, yeah. Have just found here. So yeah, I don't know. So the only reason I'm glad we've switched up to doing 3 episodes a week, or having to watch that, is that actually it's I think it'll be just enough.
Good.
I think that'll be just enough so that I won't binge it. Like that, there's a huge matter of self-control with me for this because we watch him and like. I watch him with the kid and she's like, can we watch another one? And I'm like, no, we can't. And so it's like, and because I don't want to watch ahead. it is kind of fun letting it wait until like I give myself a few days to do it, like we were talking about with the streaming. So yeah, I'm very looking forward to seeing, what happens next. It's they kind of talked about going after Claire, but nobody, like, there's been nothing said. And then Sawyer's, like we don't know if Sawyer's on his way to try and find Rousseau. You had it's very interesting, the dynamics that are going on between Michael and Walt as well. It's a very interesting story to try and tell of like a father and son that don't know each other getting to know each other under such a pressure cooker of a situation, and the boy actually reaching out in a way to someone who is so polar opposite his father as a father figure in some ways, just because he thinks it's cool, because this guy has skills to adapt to helping them survive. And I mean, I can't say I wouldn't be the same way with my child, but it's very interesting that Michael is not kind of letting himself see the forest for the trees, and in some ways cutting off his own nose despite his face. Look at that. I was able to throw two cliches and little metaphors into one there, back to back.
That must be British. I've only heard British people say that. You're the first non-British person to ever talk about cutting off your nose
despite your face.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely building up. I think I can tell you that the next week, if we're gonna watch 3 episodes, you're finally gonna get your Boone and Shannon episode. So you're gonna get some backstory there.
Thank God.
You're gonna get your Michael and Walt episode.
Good.
Oh, cool.
Get your backstory there. And then we're gonna get another Charlie episode. So you get a little more Charlie in your life.
He's such a complex, fun character. Whenever I see him, I keep flashing back to the scene in the Charlie episode where he goes to talk to his brother, and his brother, especially because his brother being a former addict, is kind of a dick to Charlie about the whole thing. Like, there should be way more sympathy there.
Yep.
Like it's a very interesting vibe that he comes off with. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching some more of this.
Yep. Yeah, we got stuff to watch.
Yes, we do.